The stories you share.
The music you love.
Live from where you live.
Your radio station for Wiltshire.
This is BBC Wiltshire.
The Prime Minister by Boris Johnson. We will be leaving. Let's get this thing done, he said. Well, it hasn't happened, has it? We're staying in. We've got a further extension until the end of January now. And what's more, we're facing a general election. So, to get the conversation going, BBC Wiltshire's political reporter has pulled together a group of local Wiltshire voters on this Halloween Brexit date. And joining us now, of course, that's Dan O'Brien, who's with me in the studio.
Hello, Graham. Yeah, Brexit, as you've been hearing, continues to trudge through the nation, not quite dead, not quite alive, but staggering on like a grumpy Halloween zombie waiting for someone to decide what on earth to do with it. Last time Brexit got delayed, and frankly it's starting to feel like it's becoming a biannual tradition, remember when it was supposed to happen back in March? We got a panel of local voters round the breakfast table, as it was then, to talk about it. Not to argue over who's right and wrong, not to win a fight, but to listen to how each other are thinking and feeling about the state of Brexit. We're going to do that again this evening, this time around, for the next hour or so, sharing some low-budget Halloween treats while we're at it. Around the table, we've got Angelica, Bruce, Rob is on his way, we've got Sue, and we've got Alice as well. And Angelica, how are you feeling about Brexit at this point?
I would still rather have a second referendum than a general election.
Alice, what's your view on that?
I think when it comes to the whole Brexit situation, I'm not surprised it's been pushed back again. However, I feel sorry for the average voter on the street, because for me, Brexit is more about the hidden costs that we are not seeing as the general public. So the cost for businesses to prepare themselves for this constant no deal preparation that gets pulled out very last minute. And I think
it's part of your job to do that,
yeah,
isn't it? Your
exactly.
professional job is to help a business, a local company prepare for that.
Yes, exactly. And that was something I was fundamental to. And not even preparing for the event of a deal Brexit. We're talking no deal Brexit. So worst case scenario for my business. And to have that pulled out so many times, I feel sorry for the people involved in preparing for this, but also the average man, woman, child on the street that, is being led on and thinking it's just been constantly dragged on.
Especially those, absolutely. We're going to come on to who it is we blame for this delay, because where you're coming at this from very much varies who you hold accountable for this. But we're going to continue this conversation with these guys and a couple of others throughout the course of this evening. Hopefully soon a fairly low-budget pizza is going to arrive to complement my crisps and low-grade sandwiches that we have to share. So a fabulous evening awaits. We'll catch up in a bit.
What toppings have we got?
I can't remember, Graham.
Oh, come on. It's the important thing, isn't it? Dan O'Brien and our assembled panel of guests tonight. Tonight I'm joined on the programme by BBC Wiltshire's political reporter, Dan O'Brien, and an assembled panel of guests.
So we've got together this evening our Brexit panel of local voters, a proper cross-section of views here with me this evening, as we share in our hot pizza, which you will be disappointed to learn, Graham, has pretty much vanished now,
Yes,
as we discussed the rights and wrongs of Brexit and how we're all feeling about it. Since we last spoke, we've also been joined by Rob Perks. We're also here with Bruce, Angelica, Sue and Alice. And Alice, I wonder with you, who you blame for the country being on hold? Who do you look at and go, do you know what, this is your fault? Or are you a bit unclear on that? How do you feel?
I do think it's MPs. I think that there was the will of the people, and I was a Remain voter. But I do struggle with this deadlock that they have in Parliament where they can't decide it between themselves. It almost feels like they just need to go outside, have a bit of a fisticuffs about it and just decide on it, because it's going back and forth. And, we've had iterative votes, we've had more votes, we're having votes again on it.
We're having procedures that some people haven't heard of in hundreds of years coming out in the parliamentary process during this. Absolutely.
So I think the MPs need to make a clear decision on it, and then basically act on what the public did vote for.
Angelica, who do you blame for this current scenario?
I think I agree.
Sue, do you think it's going to solve anything, having this December election that we're now hurtling towards?
No, I can send him to a good hairdresser. That's about all I have to add.
Thank you very much. Right, who's going to fight over that last slice of pizza? Graham will be back with you in a bit as this conversation continues.
Oh, I'll go for the pizza myself.
Live from where you live.
BBC Wiltshire.
Oliver's keen for a slice as well. He's here with the travel news. Well, as I've been mentioning, BBC Wiltshire's political reporter, Dan O'Brien, he's been with us on the programme throughout the afternoon, together with an assembled panel of guests.
Panel of Wiltshire voters with a range of different opinions here. The pizza, I'm sorry to say, has all gone, Graham. I know you're in a bit of a sulk about that.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've got some quality sandwiches left for you, though, and some crisps if you want to come and steal some while we talk about this. But this time around, I want to talk to you all about whether Brexit has changed how we talk to one another. We obviously see it has in Parliament, and today we've had the news that several of the high-profile MPs, particularly women, are not standing in the next election, they say, because of the abuse that they've all suffered. And I just wonder your sense as, just as local people and as local voters, if you think it has changed the tone of debate in this country in terms of how we talk to one another. Alice, what are your thoughts? It's often said, you know, the younger generation are more likely to all agree to, support Remain. But is that the case in your experience? Have people in your circles become more polarised, more angry, less able to have a civilised discussion, do you think?
I think there's been more of it. We've got more of the people that are getting fed up with how things are playing out. And I mean, even just talk today of the election on the 12th of December. For me, it's going to impact my birthday. My birthday's on the 5th of December,
Ruined.
Absolutely ruined. It's completely. I mean, I was looking forward to some nice, well-meaning birthday cards. I don't want a birthday card from the Lib Dems and Labour and Conservative trying to get my vote.
One.
I'm going to get one, which is not what I'm looking forward to at all. And then on the 12th of December, we've got a Christmas party. So, I mean, it's really inconsiderate. I'm going to be far too merry to be voting at that point. I suppose it has changed conversations, and I think there's a lot more almost jokiness about it. I think because, for instance, the exit day keeps getting pushed back and back and back. People don't take it seriously, so they're engaged with political debates, but I think people are almost doing it half-heartedly.
Well, we're going to come on in the next little bit to talk about what on earth you all want to happen next. That'll be on the way after the 7 o'clock news.
This is BBC Wiltshire.
I'm joined on the programme tonight by our political reporter, Dan O'Brien, who's chairing a Brexit panel with, interested viewers, commentators from across Wiltshire. Let's rejoin them now, Dan.
Thank you, Graham. You were saying in the introduction with Adrian there about how people are feeling about it. I tell you how they're not feeling about it, and it's amused. Nobody is amused by it. I get a real sense from my panel here this evening of immense frustration, whichever way you come to look at it. So let's talk about how we might solve that problem. What do you guys hope happens next? I'm here with Rob and Bruce and Angelica and Sue and Alice. Alice, shall we start with you? What do you actually hope happens next?
To be honest, I would like and hope for some stability from the next election. Personally, I don't think we're going to get it. I think the country's more divided now than it has been since the referendum, to be quite honest with you. So I am personally, as a young voter, quite fearful for where this takes us. And I personally feel like Brexit, whatever side you're on, it's almost a conspiracy theory. It's a cover-up for a lot of other issues that we as a country are facing. And
like what?
For me personally, I'm a big champion of housing and helping young people get onto the housing ladder. So for little things like the Help to Buy ISA being withdrawn, and people aren't perhaps fully aware that's happening, support for fundamental services for education, it's all dropping away. But because Boris is there shouting on about Brexit, and because we're all fed up with hearing Brexit, I think we're forgetting the real
And because
issues.
people like me spend so much of our time talking
Well,
about
you
Brexit,
know, I wasn't going to bring it up, Dan, but
it's,
you know.
it's a valid point, though, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's
yeah.
our national conversation is so much of it is
Exactly.
dominated by it, so it covers things up. So that's what would you want to happen next? Sue, what are your thoughts? How do you hope
think-
things progress from here?
Anybody can sort the mess out and, sort the country out. There's the NHS, there's, we can have an election, but what's going to change? I can't see there's going to be much of a change. They'll go round, hold a few babies and go into schools and make big promises that
Don't forget
probably
high-vis
won't get
jackets.
fulfilled. Absolutely. There's a lot needs sorting out. And as, like Alice said, there's a lot that's just been covered up, isn't it? It's not, you've got to deal with the real things that are going on out there. Travel round on the bus in Swindon in the day or walk and you can see there's a lot of things need changing. And I just hope somebody, they just look an absolute mess, all of them. The arguments on the television, the debates, and it's just ridiculous.
What would restore your faith in it and think, actually, do you know what, we're going to be okay as a country? What would you like to actually see change?
Well, I just, as I said, more positive, actually people from the street running it, I think, could do a better job than they're doing at the moment. There's just nothing, you just, as I say, it's all Brexit and it's just all very, very negative. I don't know what to say about that.
Angelica?
Ideally, I'd like the Lib Dems to get so many MPs that we can revoke Article 50, stay in the EU, and then get on and solve all the other problems that need doing, like the NHS and housing and whatever else. Second best, we have a referendum, another one.
And you're here today proudly with your Devices for EU badge on your chest. That's what you hope happens next to solve the problem. What do you expect to happen as a result of this election?
I don't know. At worst, another mess. I really don't know. That's why I said earlier on, a referendum would have been an easier election now, because there are two things to vote on. We stay or we accept Boris's deal. With the election, there are so many different choices and so many different MPs. We don't know who's going to end up in Parliament and what they will do then.
And so many different versions, as you say, of what should happen next. And that's reflected, isn't it? Rob, you represent many local businesses with the local Chamber of Commerce, and that sense, everyone's sense of, oh, just get on with it, means something different to every single person that utters that sentence, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the worst possible result is another hung parliament with nobody able to actually do anything and everybody frustrating each other constantly. I think that's the worst possible result. Say, whether it's Angelique's hope of the Lib Dems winning or whether it's Boris and his crowd or whatever, at least we have something that's decisive. We can either remain and get on with life, or we can leave and get on with life. I think we need to be able to get on, because those other issues that Alice was mentioning, housing and all these other things, really important, and they're all drowned out because of Brexit. And I think we've also got to get away from the adversarial politics a little bit, and not here at BBC Wiltshire, but sometimes the journalists are so quick to rip into anybody who comes up with an idea. It's immediately ripped to shreds. There's not much sort of, let's try and build somebody up and build an idea up. It's always just, let's rip it down and throw it in the gutter. And I think we need to get a little bit more positive looking and more constructive about it.
Well, that's a rubbish idea. Why did you say that?
Sorry.
No, we try to keep the tone constructive. Bruce, as a Brexiteer, what do you actually hope happens next? How do you in your mind solve this deadlock without alienating half of the country?
What I'd like to do is just give you an example. During this last 3 years and all the Brexiteering and everything, and I've heard round the table tonight talking about the NHS, something this week happened which was absolutely phenomenal and that was close to my heart. The NHS and a drugs company called Vertex agreed to supply people, 10,000 of them in the UK, that have cystic fibrosis. They have now authorised the NHS to allow them to have life-changing drugs. That happened this week, and then just yesterday it happened in Northern Ireland. We're just waiting now for it to happen in Wales. Now that shows you, when you've got the right frame of mind for a discussion, for compromise, and for a way to move forward, you can do things and make things happen. And what made that happen was that myself and colleagues all around the country, in Northern Ireland, in the UK, we went out there, we spoke to parliamentarians, we spoke to the drugs company, and at last, there's ladies in Bristol with children. It was just overjoyed this week that has happened.
Yeah, it was all over the news, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember,
So
I
what
remember seeing the clips.
So what I think now about Brexit is that I keep banging on about it, but a democratic vote happened. If our country is going to come out of this, be proud, and be able to have a system that works, we need to have, hopefully, everybody go out there and vote. I believe in the British people, and I hope they go out there and vote so that we can have that democratic thing to happen, which is to leave the European Union. Now, the thing is, you've got the Lib Dems, and it's very nice that, well, they hope that Lib Dems will get in there. I hope, that I can go to the moon, but I don't think I will do that. And I mean, with regards to the Labour Party, with Corbyn and his team, I mean, I'm an ex-veteran from the armed forces, and I cannot believe that people support a man like that.
You can see where your political colours may be leaning to based on that answer. I'm slightly off the point, but I'd say that Labour's South Swindon candidate was actually an army veteran herself, so they certainly don't all feel like that. And Angelica, your thoughts on how do you... We've heard Bruce's thoughts there as a Brexiteer, but as somebody who wants another referendum and to remain, how do you bring people like Bruce on board? How do you guys get on to being vaguely on the same page on this?
I don't know. And when you said earlier on how has the discussion changed, that is the really difficult thing now. It's almost seems like black and white, isn't it? It's sort of you're one or the other. Any other election or any other votes, you voted for somebody. It may have been the party that came in Parliament. It may not be. Doesn't really matter. You carry on talking, and in 5 years' time, you vote again. It's a different vote. Sue, are you optimistic?
About what?
Well, for the future of politics.
No, not at all. No, it's everybody has their views around here. Obviously, politically, you have to remain as you do. But I think it's just I wouldn't know who to vote for now. And they say to bring in the young. I mean, I think they're probably seeing the state of things at the moment. I think they'd steer well away from it, to be honest.
Alice, that's the youngest person around the table. What do you make of that?
That's the token young person at the table.
It's a compliment, honestly.
The way I see the political situation, so I grew up through the Tony Blair years, so I saw the stability of that, and then obviously we had the Iraq War, and that was quite a fundamental changer for me growing up. The last 3 years have been pretty crazy, I would say, in terms of politics, but quite exciting as well. So I do think to myself, as someone that studied history at university, in the decades to come, this is the thing that kids will be studying, and they will look at us and go, where were you at the time of the referendum? And I don't want to think to myself, I was there moaning and complaining and not at least somewhat trying to enjoy the ride a little bit. In terms of political situation, I do think that it's a massive shake-up, and I'm optimistic that by breaking it down and revealing the true colours of politicians, so for instance, realising that the MPs for up north may not be as pro-Labour as the voters traditionally thought they were, things like that, I think breaking it down might help us build it up again and build up potentially a better political system.
Thank you all very much for coming in this evening. You're listening to BBC Wiltshire, a bit of a discussion about how we're feeling on this eve of what should have been Brexit Day. We were supposed to be leaving in, 3.5 hours time from now? It ain't happening, guys. It's not happening till January, the end of January at that. We've got to get through an election first in December, the first election that's taking place in December in 100 years as the country tries to solve this Brexit deadlock. But it's been brilliant to get you all in here this evening and talk about some of the differences and some of where you all agree as well. Thank you so much for coming in to share it with us. That's Alice, Sue Angelica, Bruce, and Rob as well. I really appreciate all your time this evening, and I hope we will speak again. And eventually, one day, we might have a resolution to this conversation. Should we? Yeah, book in for 31st of January.
Book in for now,
you all free?
Yeah.
Get the pizzas in.
Get the pizza.
We'll get that order in now.
I'm
We'll
voting on
order
the
a bigger one
pizza.
next time, Graham. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I have a Hawaiian? Don't hold your breath, though, will you? Dan O'Brien, our political reporter, and our panel, thank you to them all. It's 7:25 as we head into your Thursday evening. Lightning Seeds on BBC Wiltshire. Pure.